Starting our list right, at number 10 we have mysterious origins. I think it's best to introduce this doll by sharing its disturbing origins. According to legend, in the early 1900s, a wealthy American family known as the Ottos committed an unspeakable offense against their young maid from the Bahamas. In an act of retaliation, the maid gifted the young Otto boy Eugene a dog named Robert who had been cursed by a voodoo priestess. In the following years, Eugene would be uncomfortably close to the doll. He would speak to it as if it was a real person and would become violently angry with anyone who just looked at it without his permission. Looking without permission meant that they were being disrespectful to Robert. And on top of that, most of the Otto family friends stopped visiting, claiming to have seen the doll move by itself or having heard it giggle and laugh in the dead of night. The family had enough and decided to send the doll to a museum where many people believe that visiting the doll is a reason for their personal tragedies. And it's to be noted that you should not view it without his permission or take any photos, or else misfortune will find you. At our number 9 spot, we have It's the Same Company that invented the teddy bear. As mentioned before, he was a handmade doll, but many don't know that Robert was built in the same company that created the first ever teddy bear, showing that evil and good can exist in the same place. But this kind of makes me think of teddy bears differently, especially when the company that made the teddy bear was also one who made one of the most cursed objects in the world. The company's name is Steve Company, which was located in Germany. They created the teddy bear in honor of Theodore Roosevelt, but for Robert, they didn't intend to release him at all and said he was a part of a window display of clown and gestures. Well, I guess the joke's on us. Stealing our number 8 spot, we have Robert is possessed. So it's widely believed that the doll is in fact possessed. They place the blame on the person who originally gave the doll to Eugene Otto, which was the servant who worked for the family. It's reported that she was abused and mistreated by the family, which led her to cursing the doll using voodoo and black magic. The doll would consume Eugene and would often be caught talking and painting with the doll until his death in 1974. The doll seemed to be possessed before his death, but after, it only got worse. And that's where we'll get onto our next point. Onto our next point, at number 7, we have Myrtle Reuter. When Eugene Otto died in 1974, his doll and the house were the only things that he left behind. So eventually the artist's house was purchased by Myrtle Reuter, who was also granted the task to take care of Robert the doll. In addition to sourceless footsteps and giggling, Reuter and her visitors reported seeing Robert's facial expressions change whenever his owner Gene was mentioned. They also swore he had the ability to move between different rooms of the house without any help. And her 10-year-old daughter would find Robert in the attic where she claimed he was alive and trying to hurt her. After 20 years, she had enough and finally decided to donate Robert to the Fort East Martello Museum in Key West, Florida, where he still resides today. On to our next point, at number 6, we have Fort East Martello Museum. Now the doll haunts a small museum in Key West, Florida. It now haunts the entire building, and it's said that school children walking by outside report seeing Robert move from window to window. Staff at the museum claim that Robert has been found in different positions within his case. That footsteps have been heard around the museum at night with no apparent explanation for the noise, and that Robert's expression has been known to change from neutral to nasty in a blink of an eye. Visitors in the museum take precaution before meeting Robert. It's said that you need to speak to him in a polite way. You need to ask his permission to photograph him and to treat him with the most utmost respect. The walls around him are littered with apologies from guests for their behavior. That's literally how much people fear his ability to curse others. This is because many visitors who don't respect Robert claim they face dreadful misfortune, such as getting into accidents, losing relationship, illnesses and disease. So these apologies are actually for good reason. Right in the hump of our list, we have Don't Get Robert Mad. Now that we mentioned that he's currently in the Fort East Martello Museum, I think it's best to know that his terror didn't stop there. It only continued at a grander scale. One Reddit user named Dun Myth was with his wife and son when they decided to take a trip to Key West. They had heard about Robert in the past, so just because they were passing through, it just made sense to take a visit. The man's wife was superstitious and was very nervous when approaching Robert. On the other hand, the man was not nice about it and decided to tease her about it, which in hindsight, he knew that he pissed Robert off. Once they finished, and as they were leaving, they noticed that their car wouldn't start. It's also good to mention that this car was a luxury car, bought new, and was less than a year old. But when the mechanic came, the battery connectors just crumbled because they were that corroded. The mechanic claimed he had never seen anything that bad. This led the husband to walk back to the museum to apologize to Robert. I know, creepy stuff. All the way at our number 4 spot, we have Robert moving his foot. A lot of people decide to record Robert as they visit the museum. Many don't really record anything supernatural, and besides, they are usually stressed because of the conditions needed to visit Robert. As mentioned already, you need to ask permission to take pictures or videos or even talk to the doll. If not, people claim bad luck and negativity in their lives. So here's a video of someone showing Robert the doll. Although it's unconfirmed if they ask for permission, it's super eerie the way Robert just moves. Right at our number 3 spot, we have Robert inflicts pain. Just one more museum encounter for our list, I promise. Reddit user Taiji Lu talked about his tragic encounter with Robert the doll. He was super excited to see the doll. A kid in the candy shop is how he described it. He reported feeling heavy the moment he was in the same room as Robert, and he even claimed to see apparitions in the corner of his eyes. The user took a photo of Robert, and once he started to tell the story to one of his friends, the atmosphere changed and he felt sick to the stomach. As they rode back home on their bikes, the kid would fall off and dislocate his knee, and to this day, he would still blame it on Robert the doll. We're almost done, and at our number 2 spot, we have Ozzy Osbourne. I know it's a bit random, but I wasn't surprised that Ozzy Osbourne had a connection to this cursed doll. Just in case you've been living under a rock, Ozzy Osbourne took over the 70s with his heavy metal vocals and personality. In this series, Ozzy and Jack's World Detour, they decided to pay a visit to the doll. During the visit, Ozzy and his son did apologize and ask for permission, but the doll just didn't seem fazed.
Do you believe in that voodoo?
I think that's some weird
superstition.
After this occasion, Ozzy had a terrible 2019. He took many serious falls, causing many major bruises and cuts. He underwent neck surgery, he got an infection in his hand, and was hospitalized for a flu. He blamed all of this on the cursed doll.
Sorry, Robert.
Sorry, pardon.
So if Ozzy Osbourne speaks, we listen. At our number 1 spot of our list, we have an inspiration from Chucky. One of the most influential horror films of all time is 1980's Child's Play. This starred the infamous killer doll Chucky. Even though he isn't a real person, he is based on a real figure. And you guessed it, it's Robert the doll. These stories have very many similarities. Like Robert, Chucky was a gift to a little boy who at first saw Chucky as his best friend and primary companion. Chucky's tale also parallels Robert's because they are both living dolls who cause chaos wherever they go. Both these dolls are just entities of mischievous deeds. So do you think you have the strength to see this doll? Cause I want to take a flight to Florida and visit this museum to test it out firsthand, but I'm not sure that's a good idea.
Starting off at number 10, one you probably heard of before, Zozo. The Zozo demon is a mysterious trickster entity known for stalking people through Ouija boards. Those who claim they've made contact with Zozo say he often shows himself by guiding the planchette into a figure 8 formation, before frantically zooming back and forth between the Z and O. His interactions start out friendly but grow malicious. He's known for cursing at and threatening the people that try to make contact. Some believe that saying his name out loud can also summon Zozo from the depths of hell. Zozo believers claim the demon has ancient origins from Africa. A supernatural entity called Zozo was referenced in the 1818 French text Infernal. The demonological encyclopedia written by a French author recounts the story of a young village girl who claimed she'd been possessed by 2 demons named Mimi and Zozo. Now at number 9, Flat. This one was commented by a Reddit user. One time me and my friends were hanging out, and one time one of them brought out a Ouija board. They were using it and had contacted a spirit. Something malicious then centered on me for the duration of their contact. They were amazed at the interaction because they weren't moving it. And I, in turn, taunted their little spirit friend, telling it that it sucked and probably deserved to be dead, etc. Suddenly it spelled out FLAT, then no more movement. Unable to get another contact, we watched a movie and got ready to leave. Mike is seeing us out, and one of them notices that I had a flat tire on my reasonably new car. I then start walking across the lawn to my vehicle and I fall flat on my butt. Call it a coincidence or something, but it seems like a pretty big coincidence. Here at number 8, Abel. Another Reddit user said, my friend had one in college. I played with it once and it scared me because it only wanted to talk to me. It was a spirit called Abel, and I don't remember much more after that. I refused to play one night, but my friends went ahead with it. They were laughing and asking questions until they got very quiet. I asked what was wrong and they said it only wanted to talk to me and it kept spelling my name over and over. I asked my roommate to get rid of it. After that night, we had some strange things happen. I had a touch lamp that would come on by itself over and over. I finally unplugged it and took out the bulbs. Also, on Halloween, my brake lights on my car came on and wouldn't go off. It drained my battery. We finally moved and nothing else happened. Taking number 7, demon. This Redditor said, my stepdad is the kind of man that doesn't lie, ever. Which is why I believe his story about a Ouija board experience he had when he was younger. He said he had friends over and he had a Ouija board and they wanted to play it. After a bit of playing around, they made contact with a being that said it was a demon. His friends were asking it questions, but he said the thing pinpointed him. It told my stepdad it would visit him again later after midnight. Thoroughly freaked, they put the board away. My stepdad fell asleep and said he was woken right after 12 by it. He said this thing woke him. It was sitting at the end of his bed, grinning. He said it was small and evil looking, just grinning at him. The thing told him his first child would die and it left. My stepdad said afterwards that he tried to get rid of the board. He first threw it out with the trash, but it didn't work. He said a few days later, a little boy that he had never seen in the neighborhood showed up at his door with the board. He handed it to my stepdad and said, "This is yours," and left. My stepdad tried to burn it, but it wouldn't catch fire. So then he dug a deep hole and put the board in it, placed a Bible on top of it and buried it. As far as what the demon predicted, it came true. His first wife miscarried at 3 months. Coming in at number 6, foul. This Redditor commented, when I was about 16, I found an old school Ouija board at a thrift store. It was made of real wood, not paper like they are now. It was thin but still wood. I was intrigued with it, so I took it home. Me and a gal pal were playing with it, but nothing was happening, so we just gave it up. Left it on the bed and went out for snacks. There was no window open, no random draft, no AC on at the time, no fan. Nothing that could have caused it, but when we came back with snacks and pop, that board was working on its own. The planchette was traveling all over the board, and the word it was spelling out was foul. For a minute, we just stood there and watched it spelling out that word, several times. Then my friend scooped it up and broke it. We then covered it with salt and got rid of it in a safe place. Halfway there at number 5, exorcism. Now this one is pretty freaky. Last summer I stayed for a couple of weeks and perished with a priest who had a case that involved a Ouija board. A young man came into his office a few months before we talked and told the father that he had been to 3 other churches and they had turned him down or didn't believe him. His grandmother had gotten him a Ouija board about a year ago. He began playing with it and got into contact with something. He began to feel the urge to use the board more and more. It got to the point that if he wasn't using it multiple times a day, he would begin to become extremely ill, like loss of physical strength to do anything except grab the board. The father then blessed the home and took the Ouija board. When he got back to the parish, he attempted to burn the board. However, it simply wouldn't burn. This is even after pouring gas on it. He then tried to tear up the board, but couldn't even make a scratch on it. In the end, he ended up saying a minor exorcism, blessing the board, and then tried to burn it. He said it went up in a matter of seconds. Now at number 4, Eliza. This Redditor said, so my friends and I brought the Ouija board to a pioneer cemetery in the country and were able to contact one of the women buried there. We walk through the cemetery, set up the board in a clearing, and start asking questions. At first it does nothing, but soon starts to move, and we get a name, Eliza. Someone asks how old she was when she died. The Ouija board says 54. We ask if she wants us to stay, she says yes. One of my friends starts shining his flashlight on the gravestones around us. One of the stones closest to us read Eliza Taylor 1862 to 1960. We hightail out of there. A few days later, I googled the cemetery and found that some people have reported seeing some lady in a dress beckoning them over to the grave of the woman who we think contacted us. Here at number 3, warehouse. This one said, in high school, a couple friends, my friend's mom and myself, were talking about a local building being haunted. My mom worked there, so we decided to break out the board and give it a shot. This place is essentially a large warehouse with tall metal racks, stacked with bags of dirt, manure, bark, and other things like large ceramic flower pots. The board was glow in the dark, so we all kept the lights off. Once we got it going, it started moving around. We asked if something was there to let us know, and there was a loud bang that seemed to come from the rafters on the other side of the warehouse. Every question that followed was met with a similar bang from various locations in the warehouse. The last question asked was if it meant us harm. The planchette was already on the no answer and it did not move. The question was repeated and immediately followed by the closest noise yet, so we decided to leave. As we were rushing out, we flipped on our flashlights and we saw 1 or 2 large pots fall from the rack and heard what we would later find to be 40-pound bags of bark dropping to the ground. Coming in at number 2, trailer. My mom has a story of how she came home one day when her family lived in a mobile home and her younger sisters had been playing with one. The house started rocking and she thought they were jumping on the bed. So she went into the room to yell at them and found them both pinned against opposite sides of the wall with the board in the middle of the room. All the while, the trailer shook. Ever since then, no matter where my aunt lives, she talks about weird things happening, like being pushed off the bed while she's sleeping. Coming in at number 1, Claire. This Redditor posted, I have an actual story. When my dad was a kid, he was playing around with some friends of a friend. They decided to play with the board and my dad just kind of hung back. They were asking all kinds of questions like, who does Bobby like? And giggling about who was moving the planchette when basically out of nowhere it spells out, tell Claire not sad. Everyone was pretty confused except my dad. His younger sister, my aunt, had a friend that has passed away. He wasn't really close with these people and I don't know if they even knew he had a sister, much less her name or that her friend passed away. Of course, it's possible that they were messing with him, but he sincerely doesn't think so. And to this day, he's still pretty freaked out about it.
Starting our list right at number 10, we have The Hands Resist Him. This 1972 painting by Bill Stoneham depicts a young boy standing next to a doll in front of a glass doorway. If you look closely at the window behind the boy, you'll see a multitude of hands pressing against the glass. The boy himself is based on a photograph of the artist at a young age. The glass behind him represents a line between fantasy and reality. And the doll serves as his guide. Supposedly, the art critic that first reviewed the piece, as well as the director who put it on display, both passed away within a year of viewing the painting. The last person to sell the piece claimed that it was indeed cursed and that the characters within the art piece would move around. And in some odd cases, they would exit the painting altogether, allowing them to wreak havoc on the world. The artist even made a prequel and a sequel to this painting, and both are just as mysterious and disturbing as the next one. Coming at number 9, we have the Untitled painting. Okay, so you're not supposed to look at this photo for too long, and I'll explain why. So let me just remove the photo. Are you gonna remove it? Okay, guess not. Sorry guys, I guess you can keep your eyes closed until I tell you to look back. This Untitled piece is made by Zdzisław Beksiński, and this was a Polish painter who had a very dark style of dystopian surrealism. Beksiński had an obsession with death and he displayed it in the majority of his paintings, and it's said that death shortly after became very obsessed with him. In 1998, Beksiński lost his wife tragically to cancer, and only a year later his son took his own life. So it's safe to assume that his life was filled with negative energy, hence his paintings. It's said that his energy transferred to the paintings because apparently when you look at the painting for too long, it not only gives off an eerie feeling, but may bring you closer to death. And that's exactly what happened to Beksiński, because in 2005 he was found with 17 stab wounds, all because of an argument about $100. I know, scary stuff. At our number 8 spot, we have The Dead Mother. This art piece was painted by Edvard Munch, which is also the same guy who painted the iconic Scream painting. But the Dead Mother painting gives off this incredibly tragic and eerie vibe. I mean, if you can't feel that from just looking at it, just read the name. It said that Munch painted this with the inspiration of his own tragic childhood experience. In reality, Munch witnessed the passing of his own mother and his own sister, only at the young age of 5 years old. Upon displaying this painting in a museum, people have reported a lot of strange and supernatural things. It's believed that if you see this painting in person, the eyes of the girl will just follow you. Others report seeing visions of the little girl in their nightmares, and also see the woman on the bed moving and could hear her bed sheets rustle. When people asked the painter how he felt about the eerie painting, he commented, quote, "Sickness, madness, and death were the black angels who watch over my cradle." Sounds like he knew it was haunted in the first place. At our number 7 spot, we have The Anguished Man. Very little do I think artists should back away from controversial and different types of ideas. I mean, that's just the creative process. But this one, yes, this one, just took it a little too far. This painting by an unknown artist is said to have mixed his own blood into the oils, and after completion, he took his own life. For years, it sat in a woman's attic in England, and she would experience strange and unusual things happening all around her house. After being spooked too many times, she then decided to hand it over to her grandson, Sean Robinson. He experienced similar occurrences, but for years he just left it all alone in his basement until flooding forced him to bring it upstairs. This is where it gets a bit worse. He started to hear whispering, crying, and he would also see a shadowy figure walk around the house, and even his son said it tried to push him down the stairs. Eventually, in 2011, he made a YouTube video documenting the strange things. All the way at our number 6 spot, we have the portrait of Samantha Houston. There's a haunted hotel named Driscoll Hotel with a supposedly cursed painting that was in the hotel. This painting was a portrait of Samantha Houston. Now that you've seen the paintings, I regret to inform you that some people report feeling nauseous or having the sensation of falling while they look at it. So if you haven't done both, you're doing great. Samantha Houston is said to have been the 4-year-old daughter of a former Texas senator. In 1887, her father took her to the Driscoll Hotel in Texas. Allegedly, Samantha passed away when she fell down the stairs playing around with a ball. Now, the paranormal activity around the building is blamed all on Samantha. Door handles around the painting shake with no explanation, and a ball could be seen bouncing around in the lobby. Others say that her expression becomes distorted when they view the painting in person. Right in the hump of our list, we have the crying boy. Painted by Italian artist Giovanni Bragolin, it became very popular in the 1950s, and many prints were made as well. Now, during the 80s, there was a huge string of house fires where the painting came out unscathed. The whole house would be burning down, and plop, there's a fully intact painting still there. Fire station officer Alan Wilkinson personally logged 50 fires where the painting survived, so it's pretty resilient. Rumors then spread that the painting was actually of an orphan who lost his home in a fire. At our number 4 spot, we have the Rain Woman. This is a painting that supposedly painted itself. The Ukrainian artist Svetlana painted this painting all the way in 1996 and reported that the whole time her hand was being controlled by something she couldn't see. She finished the painting in only 5 hours. One person who bought it and returned it just a few days later said, quote, "I dreamed about it every night. She appears and follows me like a shadow." The owners claimed that the painting gave them insomnia, and they even said they saw the woman exit the frame of the painting. She then sold it to 2 other people who ended up returning it back, saying that they experienced supernatural things and felt like their homes were no longer safe. At our number 3 spot, we have the portrait of Bernardo de Galvez. The portrait sits on display at Galvez Hotel in Galveston, Texas. The portrait hangs in one of the hotel's corridors where guests and employees have spotted ghosts in the background of photographs and have felt feelings of being grabbed at the ankle as they walk by. Nothing in the painting screams malicious. He just looks like a regular distinguished gentleman back in the day, doesn't he? But legend goes that an evil spirit found its way into the painting. Many people have claimed they feel extremely cold and uneasy standing near the portrait, and others even reported that his eyes would follow them along the hallway just like all the other ones on this list. That's not even the weirdest thing about the portrait. If you don't ask for Galvez's permission and proceed to take a photo of the painting, the picture will come out blurred and distorted, and is believed you'll be cursed after. At our number 2 spot, we have Man Proposes, God Disposes. This painting of 2 polar bears savagely attacking human remains depicts an imagined episode in the mysterious and grisly tale of Sir John Franklin's 1845 failed expedition to find the Northwest Passage. The painting reveals just how distressing the Victorians found the failure of this scientific expedition and the plight of its crew. It was even said by some college students that one time during an exam, a girl was staring directly into one of the polar bears' eyes, almost like in a trance-like state. Then, the student took her own life in the same room, and when they examined her exam paper, she just wrote, quote, "The bear made me do it." Taking our number 1 spot, we have the Stagecraft or the Hanging Man. The painting shown is an adaptation of a photograph that revealed a hanging man, and for obvious reasons, we couldn't show them it. Artist Laura P. reported to have felt uneasy when painting the picture. When she hung it up on her local business, the workers reported that the painting would move on its own and papers around it went missing. She was then asked to take it back, but when she put it up in her own home, Laura is said to have experienced paranormal activity for years, including an apparition of a headless man. She also claims that it was responsible for a mysterious leak, objects being knocked over, broken items, and even mysterious knocks on her door. Number 10, Otzi the Iceman. In 1991, the frozen mummified body of Otzi the Iceman was discovered in the Otzo Alps of the Austrian and Italian border. Scientists determined the Bronze-Age man to have died 5,300 years ago, making the body the oldest known natural human mummy ever to be found in Europe. Surrounding the excitement of the discovery, something darker began to manifest. People began to say that by disturbing the mummified body of Otzi, a curse has been released on all those involved in its discovery, recovery, and examination. In all, 7 deaths have been said to be linked with the curse of Otzi. Helmut Simon, who discovered the Iceman's body, died from a fall while hiking in 2004. Dieter Warnick, who was a part of the rescue team who found Helmut Simon's body, died of a heart attack hours after Simon's funeral. Number 9, the Dybbuk box. The Dybbuk box is a wine cabinet claimed to be haunted by a Dybbuk. If you don't know already, a Dybbuk is a malicious possessing spirit believed to be the lost soul of a person who passed away. This mahogany box was then auctioned off on eBay by owner Kevin Manis. It was said that the box had origins to Jews back in the 1940s and would often radiate paranormal activity with it. It gained so much fame that it inspired the 2012 horror movie The Possession. And just like in the movie, the box contained a Dybbuk, and if opened, the spirit of the Dybbuk will be released, causing a chain reaction of misfortune and illnesses. Number 8, freshwater lake under the ice. There are hundreds of subglacial lakes in Antarctica. However, Lake Vostok is the most mysterious out of all of them. It's estimated to be the size of Lake Ontario, but it's almost 3 miles below the ice sheets that cover the land. This would be a great spot for an introvert, wouldn't it? Despite the below freezing temperatures, scientists claim that the lake remains a liquid because of the pressure above from the ice combined with the pressure below from the Earth's geothermal heat, kinda like a sandwich. The lake is located directly below a Russian station, and it's said that the Russians drilled a 3-mile hole through the ice down into the lake. The lake is supposedly 15 to 25 million years old, so whatever was in it remained completely unknown to the world. As they collected samples from the lake, they discovered that life actually existed below. Not just bacteria and microorganisms, but it was reported that organism 46b was found there. Russian explorer Dr. Anton Paldalka claims that during his exploration of the lake, he saw the creature firsthand, reporting it to be a 14-tentacle squid-like creature around 30 to 40 feet long, and it was able to spray toxins to immobilize prey from a distance up to 150 feet. At our number 7 spot, we have a ghost tablet. A tablet made in Babylon around 1500 BC is supposedly the earliest known representation of a ghost. The clay tablet shows a handcuffed bearded spirit getting guided into the afterlife by a potential lover or a friend. It was originally hard to see any forms of drawing on the tablet until researchers put it under a lamp, which then clearly illustrated the ghostly depiction. And that's not all. There's also a backside. The backside had broken off text that gave instructions how to handle ghosts and send them to the afterlife. And if that wasn't creepy enough, the final line of the text urges readers to not look behind you. The exact origin of the tablet is unknown, but it's believed to have been stored in a library of magic in the house of an exorcist or in a temple. If this library had books about exorcising demons, imagine all the other horrific things they probably had. At number 6 spot, we have Moville Cave. This cave in Romania is said to be the king of the toxic underground, or the most toxic cave in the world. It's not a very pleasant cave to go to, but after being cut off from the world for over 5 million years, it was accidentally discovered back in 1986. The air in the cave is warm and moist, but very low in oxygen and high in toxic gases. The air is high in hydrogen sulfide, methane, ammonia, and carbon dioxide, just to name a few. So really nothing you should be inhaling in at all. If the poisonous air wasn't enough, in this dark, isolated, and poisonous kingdom live 51 species of invertebrates, 34 of which are found only in this cave. Number 5, Koniana Cave. Koniana Cave is located at the base of a cliff along the Farrington Highway of Oahu. This cave formed 150,000 years ago. According to the Hawaiian legend, Koniana Cave is home to the underground shark god Nanaue, the son of Komahoali, or the king of sharks, the most sacred brother of the fire goddess Pele. Nanaue was born with a mouth on his back, and his mother never fed him meat. But when he was 7, he accidentally ate one and slowly would become a shark-like humanoid with razor-sharp teeth and gills. He had an appetite for human flesh and would use the cave as his lair until one day a group of villagers came together and hunted him down for good. Now it's said if you see an elderly Hawaiian man cooking meat near the cave, it's actually the spirit of Nanaue. Number 4, the Baegong Pipes. Located in Tibet, this is said to be a construction site for an alien civilization 1500 years ago. Hear me out. Paranormal enthusiasts call this place an out-of-place artifact, meaning that the context of its location is unusual. The Baegong Pipes are actually embedded into the mountain itself, and it's actually impossible to do this with even modern technology. On top of the mountain, it's a pyramid-shaped outcropping, and if these didn't prove alien involvement, in 1996 an archaeologist sent samples of the pipe to a metallurgist only to find out that it was 92% comet material and 8% of it was unknown. To this day, there is still no natural explanation of this area, area, making the theory of an alien civilization a bit more likely. Number 3, the Biseno vase. This vase is a pretty little thing, and a bit old too. Cast from silver in the 15th century and produced in a simple design, it is one of the most mysterious yet elusive haunted objects in the world. Originally, the vase was a wedding present for an Italian bride who lived in a small village close to Napoli. On the woman's wedding night, she was found slowly passing away on the floor. Her hands were wrapped tightly around the silver vase, and in her dying breaths, the bride vowed to have her revenge. Then she passed away. Ever since, every owner of the vase has passed away tragically and in mysterious ways. It was hidden away until it got auctioned off. Upon looking inside of the vase, there was a note saying, quote, "Beware, this vase brings death." It was sold 3 different times in auctions, but every owner would pass away shortly, causing it to go into another auction. Eventually, it was buried, and now no one knows where it's located, but do we really want to know? Nah. Number 2, the Terracotta Army. This is a one-of-a-kind 2200-year-old funerary art. Their Terracotta Army is considered the most priceless archaeological discovery of modern times. However, for those 7 farmers who discovered it back in 1974, the warriors have proved more of a curse than a blessing. Soon after the discovery, their farmlands were claimed by the government and all their homes were demolished to make way for exhibition halls and various gift shops. Upon the 7 men, 1 took their own life while the others passed away tragically since they couldn't even afford proper health care. Some of them blame the government for their passing, while others believe this is a similar curse similar to King Tut's tomb. What do you guys think? Number 1, the Codex Gigas. The Codex Gigas, more commonly known as the Devil's Bible, is a 3-foot tall medieval manuscript with origins being completely unknown to historians. The story goes that a monk got sentenced to solitary confinement for breaking his religious vows. To avoid punishment, he claimed that he was going to write a book filled with all of the knowledge in the world. But after hours of writing, he found that this was an impossible task and decided to pray to God instead for divine intervention, hoping to receive all the knowledge in the world. However, God didn't answer. Instead, he turned to Satan. Cause why not? Instead of the holiest guy in the world, let's pick the worst guy in the world. And it's said that Satan assisted him in writing this book. And what's more surprising is that Satan is believed to have written this book in a single day. And based on modern research, the book showed no signs of hesitation or fatigue. A picture of the devil is also at the front just in case you thought I was lying. At number 10 spot, we have the Koh-i-Noor diamond. This diamond is one of the largest cut diamonds in the world and is part of the crown jewels of the United Kingdom. However, this diamond has had years of controversy ever since its discovery. For example, this object has been fought over for centuries as the British began to colonize other places in the world. One of the places being in southern India when they fought bloody wars and eventually signed a peace deal with this diamond being part of the deal. Now India wants this diamond back. But do they really? Especially knowing that it's cursed? Because according to legend, attached with the Koh-i-Noor diamond, it is considered to bring misfortune to anyone who possesses it. This is because every person known to own it or wear it has been met with a life full of violence and betrayal. Luckily, this only affects men, so this is the sole reason why this diamond is only worn by ladies in the royal family, because if a guy did, they'd probably be somewhere a lot worse. The British royal family were obviously aware of the curse of the Koh-i-Noor diamond, and from the reign of Queen Victoria, the Koh-i-Noor diamond has always gone to the wife to the male heir to the British throne. At number 9 spot, we have the Uluru rock curse. In the middle of Australia lies the monolith Uluru, which was formerly known as Ayers Rock. This area is a sacred and historical site for the indigenous, and they highly recommend you not to take one of the rocks from this area. However, after having over 300,000 visitors yearly, some are bound to take a rock for some sort of souvenir. However, the local legend goes that anyone who displaces or takes a rock out of the area will be cursed. Some visitors who casually pocketed chunks of the sacred landmark and took them home found that they experienced a series of bad luck events. Some of these visitors were struck by guilt or misfortune, and several hundred travelers each year send their holiday keepsakes back. So you can imagine how bad this curse is if people are literally flying back to this place just to give back a rock. The rocks that were returned were named Sorry Rocks by park rangers, and they would supposedly receive around 400 rocks a year. That's almost one every single day. I wonder how many people are cursed here because they just took one single rock. At number 8 spot, we have the Swansea Devil. This wood carving of a devil is not only a creepy object, but it carries its devil name with a badge of pride. Located in the Swansea Museum in Wales, this is either called the Swansea Devil or the name the locals give it, Old Nick. This wood carving was created all the way back in 1890s when a church in the area decided to undergo some big renovations. However, the renovations would be put on hold and another outsider would be put on the job, causing many locals to be angered. One local was so angry he decided to buy the property around the church and construct buildings with this wood carving standing on top of it, staring down at the church. The architect is reputed to have cursed the church by saying, quote, "When your church is destroyed and burned to the ground, my devil will remain laughing." So when World War II hit and a German blitzkrieg hit the area, the church was left down to burn, with the devil carving on top of the building, just staring down at it. Nowadays, the devil is kept at the local museum, where it's said to be facing the direction of the newly constructed church in hopes that it will burn down once again. At number 7 spot, we have the Maori warrior mask. For those who don't know, the Maori people are the indigenous Polynesian people of New Zealand. They were well known for sculpting facial masks prior to fighting in a war. These masks were not only made for art, but to honor their ancestors. Any man who passed away during combat while wearing these masks is said to have left his soul behind. Overall, Maori masks were employed to protect a person's soul. Experts have discovered a number of Maori masks that were previously belonged to noble soldiers. They say that the Maori masks are in fact cursed though. The curse itself is not dangerous to men, however for women who are pregnant, they should avoid touching or wearing them since they can bring harm and bring ill luck. A British museum took this warning very seriously, posting signs about the curse to warn women. Maori tradition dictates that a pregnant or menstruating woman is tapu or taboo, and so are the artifacts, meaning that if these two come in contact, a curse would be invoked. At number 6 spot, we have the Goddess of Death statue. Often regarded as the Goddess of Death, this stone figurine was most likely once a fertility statue. Most of its features wore away by the time it was discovered in Lem, Cyprus in 1878, but that didn't stop it from becoming one of the most cursed objects in history. Lord Elephant was the first statue's owner. After a brief moment with the statue, he alongside 6 family members would meet their demise. The same thing then happened to the figure's next few owners, including the last, Sir Alan Beaverbrook. He and his wife and his daughters passed away shortly after taking possession of the statue. His remaining sons donated the statues to a museum where the curator would pass away as well shortly after touching it. Now the statue is kept behind locked glass, nowhere close to be touched in the future ever again. Right in the hump of our list, we have the Black Sarcophagus. Archaeologists dug up an ancient black sarcophagus in Alexandria, Egypt, dating around 300 BC. Upon discovery, they had become ever wary of the possibility that the sarcophagus could be cursed. But we are humans and we never learn, so guess what? We opened it. Inside were the remains of 3 skeletons, ancient etched drawings, and ancient sewage water, making this a perfect gift. I'm just joking. There are many drawings of poisonous and venomous creatures around the sarcophagus, making many believe these are warning signs to keep away. And guess what they did? Scientists went through every single bone but had to stop multiple times due to a terrible odor. The worst part about this is that many people actually believe the sewage water found in this sarcophagus was associated with the Fountain of Youth. Number 4, Crying Boy painting. Painted by Italian artist Giovanni Bragolin, this painting became very popular in the 1950s and many prints were made because of it. The boy in the photo was said to be a mute orphan who was crying after seeing his parents pass away in a fire. Well, during the 80s, there was a huge string of house fires where the painting came out unscathed. Coincidence? I don't think so. Like, I mean, the whole house would be destroyed and plop, here's a fully intact painting. Fire station officer Alan Wilkinson personally logged 50 fires where the painting survived, so you could say it's pretty resilient. Eventually the news broke out about this painting, and on September 4th, 1985, the newspaper would be published in a British tabloid newspaper called The Sun, which would try to convince the public that the painting was cursed and was the reason for all these house fires. At number 3 spot, we have Man Proposes, God Disposes painting. This painting of 2 polar bears savagely attacking human remains depicts an imagined episode in the mysterious and grisly tale of Sir John Franklin's 1845 failed expedition to find the Northwest Passage. This painting reveals just how distressing the Victorians found the failure of this scientific expedition and the plight of the crew. It was even said by some college students that one time a girl was staring directly into one of the polar bear's eyes in a trance-like state. Then the student took her own life in the room, and when they examined her exam paper, she wrote, quote, "The bear made me do it." The painting still hangs in the Royal Holloway University in London and is now covered every single year during exams because of this incident. At number 2 spot, we have Letta the Gypsy doll. It's notorious for being one of the world's most haunted dolls, so listen up. The origin story goes that a man in Romania made this doll for his son. The little boy would tell his father that the doll would talk to him and would move on its own. But of course, the father and his wife said that this was just in the child's imagination. Unfortunately, one day, the little boy was playing with his doll near a body of water and he ended up drowning. Now it's said that the boy inhabits the doll. The current owner of the doll, Kerry Walton, said he found it in an abandoned and allegedly haunted building. They found it in a basement and the doll was supposedly child-sized, so upon first sight, they thought it was a child's body. The doll was reported to be over 200 years old, made with wood and real human hair. What? When he brought the doll home, the doll was reported to make the children cry all night because she supposedly talked to each and every single one of them, and she would move around the house freely as well. Ever since the doll, Walton has never had so many strange things happen in his life, and I don't think he's lying about a lot of this. At a number 1 spot, we have Don't Look in This Mirror. The Myrtles Plantation in St. Francisville, Louisiana is considered one of America's most haunted places, and for good reasons. The most infamous is the mirror that can be found in the main floor of the building. According to the legend, the former owner of the house, Sarah Woodruff, and her 2 daughters were poisoned by their helper, and once they passed away, they were trapped inside of this mirror, supposedly. Visitors of the house reported seeing handprints, strange marks, and even figures dressed in old-fashioned clothes lurking in the mirror. Others report seeing Woodruff's children appear in the mirror near the room where they were poisoned. And one researcher noted that each time the mirror is replaced or resilvered, the same handprint reappears as if they refuse to be ignored. Regardless, mirrors have always been a scary thing for many of us, and this artifact just confirms that we shouldn't mess with some of them.